John Sanei. John, welcome to the show.
Wow, man, I've just been entertained for 17 minutes with Joseph Jaffe, just going through the process of unpacking your day and your vision and your view. I really enjoyed it. It was really entertaining. I'm well. Thank you for having me. How are you?
17 minutes of your life that you will never get back. So I would love for you to introduce yourself and your journey, your path.
I come from a single mom family and needed to be able to make my own pocket money, which is really where it started. And from a very young age, because of that pain of not wanting to be financially constrained, I became really successful financially. I had restaurants and vending machines and retail stores and a whole bunch of different things by the time I was like 25, 26 years old. Made a lot of money and was really well-to-do. And I was living the life. And at 30, I went bankrupt. I lost everything. And I went through a process of depression for about 2 or 3 years, got myself out of that depression, and then started building agencies and futures sort of strategies to help other businesses kind of not follow what I did when I went through my bankruptcy.
Do you need adversity in your life? Does one need adversity in their life to have that platform or to be credible to dispense advice? I try and teach that to my kids as well, how important adversity is, not to fall apart or fall to pieces when stuff goes wrong.
Yeah, great question. I think you can't protect your kids from adversity. And I think at stages in their lives, they need to act out and they need to hurt themselves and overreact. I think it needs to be as raw as possible, as soon as possible. And I think it's that rawness that can either propel you into making it your life's work, or it can kind of just keep you stuck, really. So I think the determinant is your willpower to want to catalyze it and to alchemize it. And what I started to realize was I was really unhappy growing up because I put so much context towards money because I didn't have any. And so I drove myself to just not be in that shame of not having money. And then I had a lot of money. And then I was just like, I couldn't get enough of it because now all of a sudden I had the power that I was missing my whole life. And then it got taken away from me. So for me, I realized that I was unhappy before I had money. I was kind of unhappy when I had money because all I wanted was a bit more. And then I was unhappy when I had no money. And then I realized that the equation was broken. But I had to hit bottom. I mean, I had to hit that depression because you're driving yourself with this incredible expectation of X, Y, and Z. And then it gets taken away from you and it becomes the biggest gift of your life because when you can catalyze it, it just propels you to the highest points. And so I've just been very lucky because my personality is just one of wanting to solve something just for my own sake, to have more seamlessness and more elegance and more calmness in my life. And because I'm so adamant in being as seamless as possible, I've now gotten to the point where I've researched it so much that I can teach it. And in fact, positioning myself as a teacher and an author forces me to go even deeper into my subject. So adversity, it's almost like being anti-fragile. Is like saying, cool, bring it, let me feel the pain. How can I catalyze the pain? Okay, and let me keep going. Because like losing my dog was incredibly difficult, but the level of empathy I have for animals and the level of understanding I have of animals, of the energy I have around looking after animals, it's just totally changed my whole life of what I eat, how I act. And so I use that adversity to change my relationship with the animal kingdom. But then my divorce also changed my whole understanding and notion of being a man because I wasn't really being a man. I was being a boy. And my bankruptcy reestablished my relationship with power and money. And so I've had these incredible teachings like over the last sort of 15 years that I want to catalyze as quickly as possible.
And I'm curious as to what your thoughts are about the human nature of people coming out of this as we start to get back into society. My fear is that all of this will be for naught if we go back to the road rage and we go back to our love for money, and we have these very short-term memories. And what I will say is I do think, going back to what you were saying earlier, that the dividing line between the people that will forget quickly and will never forget is going to be money. The people that didn't have to worry and didn't have to fear during this time will, I fear, go back to their bad old habits. And the people who were traumatized financially will be forever changed. But I would love to hear what you think about how you see the world, society, clusters and communities being forever changed for the better and or for the worst, or just forgetting about it and moving on.
Yeah, great question. I mean, there's so many ways for people to come out of this. I don't think there's one way. I think that anybody that had an existing issue with money or an existing issue with something, or their business was on the brink of not doing that well, or was on the brink of folding, is going to be obviously hurt the most. And they should have been on the process of evolving faster to a certain extent in order to be able to be thriving in the world before, because the other people that were thriving in the world before are just finding new ways to thrive now. And so I think, again, it's just magnified existing conditions. And so,
you know, one of the sayings I always love is simple but not simplified, complex but not complicated, which is find the balance between simple and elegant without oversimplifying and dumbing it down. And complex is okay, but complicated less so.
The word is simplexity. Beautiful. Taking something very complex and making it simple.
That's why they pay him the big bucks, because he comes up with those types of things. John, there are people at home, and we've discussed essentially mental health and adversity. There are a lot of people at home that are stuck right now, that are challenged, that are facing life decisions, right? What about that happiness factor? What advice do you give people right now during however many days, weeks, or months we have left in our kind of quarantine state? What should we be doing?
Great question. And I think the trick is what we inherently have when we're a child, is our natural curiosity, what shines brightest for us, and what is the loudest when we are online, what comes naturally to us, what makes things easy. And so when we follow that process, and when we follow that string or that lure of our curiosity, what happens to us is we make time disappear and we become specialists in that topic. And what you do is you become so authentic and so unique in your skill set, people seek you out.
We did actually get a question come in on LinkedIn from Mark, and it's how do we reconcile that the pace of business change is far beyond the pace of human structures in business? I think that could be organizational structure. I think it could be process. I think it could be the fact that the business itself needs to move and pivot and adapt and change, but our fiefdoms and the way we make decisions, and even coming up, and you talk about governance, right, and how that itself then has to be approved and implemented and rolled out, etc. And the two are almost antithetical to one another, not dissimilar to the whole idea of developing a vaccine. As much as we think it might be the right vaccine, you still can't just roll it out to billions of people, because you don't know at that point what the side effects are going to be based on 58,000 different variables.
Look, the structures that govern business, the way we measure GDP, the way we understand what success looks like, because we only really measure material, nothing other than that in our sort of world right now. And so those structures are falling apart. So the question is they don't fit into those old structures. And those old structures have shown us what's happened is that we were on an earth that was on the brink of exhaustion. We were on a brink of exhaustion. We were just driving ourselves because everything was about growth. And so what I'm saying now is that because we're in a world of abundance, now we can start operating in a world that's calmer. We don't have to be in such a rush. And for many, many times as humanity, we have outlived narratives, the narrative of slavery, the narrative of women not voting, the narrative of children being in labor camps, the narrative of apartheid. All of them were just outdated narratives that we just held on to. So the narrative we're living right now of economy and what success looks like and what profit looks like, dude, it's just a narrative. And so what we have to do is shift the narrative and become more conscious and elegant and mature. I don't believe that structure should work. I think it should die. And so we should build a new one.